Vivek, I want to just talk to you or hear from you about innovation. I mean, innovation is a word that's used so often these days. It's almost become a buzzword, like disruption and pivot and all those words that we hear so often these days. But what is real innovation? I mean, clearly innovation is a fundamental part of navigating a VUCA world. Mm-hmm. But what does it really mean? And just explore that for us. And how do businesses like ours really place innovation at the core of our culture?
Yeah. So I mean, I think you're absolutely right. There's a lot of rhetoric around innovation, right? So there's a lot of jargon that gets used, and everyone talks about disruption and pivoting to the frontier or whatever it may be. In my mind, innovation at its core is really about accepting that I may need to do something different in order to succeed tomorrow. Right, and that something different can be about my products, it can be about my organisational form, it can be about how I communicate within the teams, it can be about how I incentivise my people. There's a whole range of aspects to effective innovation, but it's really about saying, as simple as saying what worked yesterday probably won't work tomorrow. So perhaps I need to start to think about tomorrow differently. And so how do I do that in practice? And that's really coming back to some of the points I was trying to make earlier, perhaps not as eloquently as I would have liked, around experimentation, right? Around trial and error. So I think effective innovation for most organisations is not just betting on the right thing. It's about recognising that to get there, you're going to have to make a bunch of bets, some of which are going to go wrong. And I think that's the essence of effective innovation, is how do I build structures and processes and culture and teamwork and everything else that says we are genuinely going to experiment, we're genuinely going to try different things, and that's how we're going to do better tomorrow, because what we were doing yesterday won't be enough. Right? And I think that's what this VUCA world is throwing up for every organisation, big and small, is that and the challenge, I think, for many successful organisations is that there is this tendency to look at what was the basis of that success. Right? So if Richmond Football Club, if you're a team that's done really well doing something over a few years, you're likely to keep wanting to do that thing, but over time the landscape shifts and everybody else is following what Richmond was doing over the last 3 years. If Richmond doesn't reinvent themselves, they're not going to be able to do well this year. Hawthorn, your team is finding themselves in that same space after a long period of success. Is how do you
very long period of success, you should add.
So yes, innovation, I think, to me, Simon, is really about how do I think about tomorrow differently to yesterday? And that's everything from the structures I have, the products and services I use, the people I engage, the teams I interact with, people talk about customer centricity. What does that mean for tomorrow's world as opposed to yesterday's world? Right? So all of those things.
But it's not just about doing something different, is it? Or doing something differently. It needs to be more than that. It needs to create new value, right?
Sure. So I'm not just saying, I don't want to just take random bets, right? So it's not just experimenting for the sake of experimenting. It's got to be about demonstrating why, if we do this and it works, it's going to create value. So absolutely going back to how do I create value in tomorrow's world when I don't know what tomorrow's world's going to look like. Whereas a lot of the value creation story in the past was, follow me to that mountain because that's where the value is. I can show you. You can see it over there. That's, if we get there, we'll be able to make money. We'll be able to do well by our people. Yeah. It's harder in a world where it's not clear where there is.
I think the other interesting thing about your comments there around innovation is that it's not just a new product.
No. And
the innovation may not be, the meaningful innovation may not be where you think it should be. And I think your example of Richmond may well be a good example of that. It's not about a new way of playing on the field. It's not a new way to kick the ball or catch the ball or new positions. Yeah. It's about a new culture. It's about a new way of caring for each other and really creating an environment that makes you care for your teammate in a whole different way and then together on the field, what does that translate to? A couple of premierships.
At least.